Chapter 1: Why did even the strongest families fall apart because of one random event? And what would you do if your family's past wasn't what you were told? The evening was warm and sticky, as if someone had forgotten to turn off summer in November. Kira was carefully packing her late mother's old dresses into boxes. Every seam still carried the scent of childhood lavender, starch, the warm air of an old house. She did it for her father. "Let's tidy everything up, Kira, so there's nothing left to remind us of the hospital," he had asked, gazing out the window as if he was afraid to meet her eyes. Kira didn't argue. She knew being strong was her role. After the funeral, she hadn't shed a single tear in public, only at night, biting her lip to keep from sobbing. She mopped floors, made soup, listened to her father giving out instructions with the dull expression of a man who'd forgotten why he was alive. Even when the neighbor brought over a cherry pie in memory of Tatiana Nikolaevna, Kira managed to smile and thank her, though inside she felt scraped raw. "Dad, what should I do with this photo album?" she called, wiping dust from a heavy brown tome with gold lettering. "Leave it. Everything we ever had is in there," he answered, waving her off and disappearing into his room as if he was afraid to witness something improper. Kira sat on the floor, the album a heavy weight in her lap. She opened it. The first pages were painfully familiar. Her parents' wedding. Childhood photos of her with scruffy pigtails and enormous bows, all so ordinary. But as she went to close it, the album slipped from her hands, thudded to the floor, and burst open. A yellowed envelope slid out from between the photos, its edges brittle and uneven. Clearly not from this decade. The handwriting wasn't even her mother's, to keep. Not to open unless absolutely necessary. Something twisted inside Kira. What did that even mean, not to open? It was like a door had appeared before her, hiding something deeply personal. Not meant for anyone's eyes. She hesitated, but just then her father's voice called from the hallway. "Are you done yet?" She stuffed the envelope between the album's pages and stood up, trying to sound casual. "No, there are just a lot of pictures." "Don't dwell on the past, Kira," he cut her off flatly. "Get yourself together, dinner's getting cold." Is it really fair to forbid a daughter from knowing her own past? Or was he just afraid everything would surface and destroy the fragile order he built since her mother died? Kira quietly put away the album, but inside she burned with anger. Why did she always have to obey, be convenient, and not ask questions? At dinner, her father ate in silence, crunching bread as if someone was listening in. Kira tried to hold herself together as a proper adult daughter should. She didn't complain, didn't ask questions, didn't mention the album. But inside her mind was racing. What if that letter was the key to her family's secret? Maybe that's why her mother used to cry at night, thinking Kira was asleep? Why did her father always work weekends even when no one needed him? Why? Were there so many old but strange things in the house? After dinner, Kira couldn't take it anymore. She locked herself in her room, pulled out the envelope, and sat on her bed, clutching it like it might bite. Do not open unless absolutely necessary. Funny, when her whole life now felt like one long necessity. Whatever was inside, it could no longer be ignored. The good times were over. Something else was about to begin. What happened next changed everything. You won't want to miss how this unfolds. Chapter 2: What if a letter from the past speaks louder than the voices of the living? Are you ready to learn something that might shatter your identity? In Kira's hands lay a scrap of paper, but it felt like a grenade. Her head buzzed. Her mother's voice, the creak of old floorboards, even a distant siren outside. Everything felt fake. Everything grated on her nerves. To keep, not to open unless absolutely necessary. Her mother had always loved mysteries, but this one couldn't be solved at the kitchen table over tea. Kira ripped the envelope open sharp, almost violent, as if she could break fate itself. Inside was a single sheet, written in a neat, unfamiliar hand, not her mother's, not her father's. "Kira, if you're reading this, something must have happened. I couldn't tell you everything while I was alive. The truth about your birth isn't what you think." Kira's fingers trembled. She read it again, disbelieving. Then, "The man you call your father isn't your real father. You are not the only child in this family, and your entire life has been built on one big lie." What nonsense was this? Was it even meant for her? Could it be some cruel joke or a forgotten letter from a friend? But everything, the handwriting, the phrasing, the commas felt real. Real and unbearable. Kira jumped up, nearly dropping the letter. Her heart hammered so loudly she thought she might scream just to release the horror. Not the only child? She had no siblings, or did she? She'd always thought her loneliness was just parental caution, not a hidden secret. Suddenly there was a knock at the door. Kira, may I? Her father stood in the doorway, fidgeting and looking especially pitiful. She stuffed the letter under her pillow. Are you all right? I'm fine, she snapped more harshly than she meant. Don't dig around. Sometimes it's better not to know. Trust me. Why? She blurted. Why are you always afraid of questions? He was silent. He just looked at her as if he were staring at a chandelier about to fall, worried and angry all at once. Because sometimes questions destroy families. He finally said, then left, slamming the door. How convenient to be the guardian of family silence, never answering for anything. She was left alone, her anger tangled with confusion. Should she call Aunt Olga, her mother's old friend? But every conversation with Aunt Olga always dissolved into her illnesses, and how proud I am of you. Kira glanced at her reflection. Proud, how ironic. Her chest felt hollow and cold. Everything familiar was falling apart. Even the teddy bear on the shelf seemed foreign. Was he part of the lie too? Not the only child. So somewhere there was someone else? Or someone had been but was now gone. Her thoughts spun, pulsed, like neon ads. You're not who you thought you were. It's funny how fast a person can lose their footing. Just yesterday she was sorting family belongings with love, sadness, duty. Today she was piecing herself together just to keep from losing her mind. Anger at her mother, at her father, at the whole house with its peeling walls, ever-present smell of dill and hidden secrets. Why hadn't anyone bothered to tell her the truth? Was everyone just living to hide from each other? Kira took out the letter, smoothed it, and looked at the signature. There was only, forgive me if you can, it's all I could do. She sat the letter beside her and lay down without undressing. Forgive me. Too late for forgiveness. But too soon to leave it all as it is. This is only the beginning. Everything you've been waiting for is right here. Stay to see how she puts everyone in their place. Chapter 3. What if your past is a trap set by those closest to you? Who do you trust when even your own reflection looks like a stranger? The night was thick and heavy, like old wine. Kira barely slept. She just listened to the neighbor's bed creaking, the fridge humming, caught herself fearing her own reflection by dawn. She felt that if she looked too long, someone else would be staring back. Someone from that letter, almost sunrise. She got up and made strong black tea, too bitter, just to wake up. Her body ached as if she carried bricks across half the city. The letter lay on the table like an accusation. How many times had she mentally rewritten its contents, hoping for a loophole, a hint of a joke? No, it was all too real to hope for a mistake. Her phone rang. The ringtone was jarring, like someone knew this was her weakest moment. The caller ID read, Olga. Kira declined the call. Here we go, Kira, don't worry, every family has secrets. She was sick of the platitudes, but the anxiety pushed her. She needed to act. Kira quickly got dressed, grabbed her winter coat, though it already smelled of spring outside, and headed for the garage. The keys were still hanging where her mother had left them years ago on a nail behind the pantry door. She trembled. What if someone caught her snooping? But it was scarier to stay ignorant. The garage smelled of the past grease, mildew, something faintly sweet like Grandma's attic. Kira rummaged through old boxes until she found a folder of family papers. Birth certificates, letters, faded. Greeting cards, also ordinary. But then a folder with apartment documents and another envelope. This time, no signature. Inside was a photograph. A young woman holding two small children, both laughing. Kira recognized her mother, but the children? One was clearly her, but the other, a boy with her same brown eyes. Her heart thudded as if it might bolt from her chest. She flipped the photo over on the back in ballpoint, 1987, Kira and Anton. Anton? Who was that? Her head spun. Her mother had never mentioned an Anton, nor had her father. Kira rushed from the garage, didn't even take off her coat, and stormed into the kitchen. Her father sat at the table, staring out the window. Dad, who's Anton? She blurted. He jumped. Where did you? In the garage. On a photo with Mom and me. She tossed the photo onto the table. He was silent a long time. She could see emotions flicker across his face: confusion, anger, fear, exhaustion. "I never thought this would come up," he finally said. "He's your brother." The word brother echoed through the room as if someone had shattered a glass. Why didn't I know? It was better this way. For everyone. His voice was quiet, almost on trial. Kira felt like she might scream or laugh. Everything familiar was dissolving before her eyes. Where is he? "I don't know," her father said. Eyes downcast. This was beyond shock. It was a catastrophe. Somewhere there was a person to whom she was a real sister. And her entire life had been a lie. Kira glared at her father, seeing not care in his wrinkled gestures, but betrayal. "So it's better to live a lie than to tell the truth." She whispered. He said nothing. His silence held everything. Exhaustion, fear, and weakness. Her chest hollow. Kira sat and quietly demanded, "I want to know everything. Don't lie to me again." He nodded. But deep in his eyes, a noose still hidden. Shadow lurked. Secrets hidden for decades don't just disappear. And what Kira learns next will threaten the very core of her family. Chapter 4. Can a single truth tear a family apart? Why is it that the more you learn, the more you wish you knew nothing? Kira stared at the photograph for a long time, hoping the boy beside her would come to life and explain everything the adults had hidden. She tried to recall a single childhood memory where someone mentioned a brother. Nothing, not even a hint. Not even in her vague, blurry memories. It was always, "You were only one." Her father fussed in the kitchen, kneading bread, pouring water, moving slowly like an old cat with nothing to fear but his own thoughts. "I'm listening," Kira said, struggling to steady her voice. He sat, wiping his forehead as if about to confess a mortal sin. "It all started long before you," he began. "Your mother, she wasn't like other people. Too kind, too open, sometimes to her own detriment. She trusted people, and people, well, Kira nodded. She always knew her mother would feed a stranger's child, give her last coat to a neighbor, never thinking of herself. Anton was born 2 years before you. He was sickly, frail, but very smart. Your mother lived for him. Everything was about him." Her father paused, as if afraid to say too much. "And then?" Kira whispered. Then something happened that no one was supposed to know. One day Anton disappeared, vanished as if he'd never been. We searched the city day and night, police. Nothing. Your mother blamed herself, me, even you. Though you were just a baby. When you were brought home from the hospital, she barely spoke. Couldn't find peace either. Why didn't you tell me?" Kira clenched her fists so hard her knuckles turned white. "I had a right to know." Her father looked her in the eye for the first time all conversation. It was her pain. She didn't want you living a borrowed life like she did. All you saw: her care, her strictness, her silence was her protection. And you just played along? I didn't know how else. She died a little every day, but lived for you. I was a coward. A heavy silence hung in the kitchen. Even the clock seemed to stop. "Did you ever try to find him?" Kira asked. He closed his eyes. "I wrote to orphanages, searched classified ads, met with strangers, even after 10 years. But no one knew anything. No one said a word." Kira stood, opened the window wide. The cool breeze swept in. It seemed even the wind knew more than she did. So my brother could be anywhere in the city, another country. And all these years, I never knew someone out there was searching for the truth. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. A hidden number. Kira answered. Silence. Then a distorted voice. "Stop digging, or you'll regret it." Her heart sank. Who was this? Why call now, just as things were becoming clear? She hung up abruptly, dropped the phone, and declared to her father, "I'm going to find Anton." "Kira, don't you dare try to stop me. I'm done living a lie." He said nothing. He sat, hunched, as if the last mask had fallen away. "Now I have a purpose, even if it leads straight to hell." She's taken her first step, but there are others who don't want the truth coming out. The real hunt is only beginning. Chapter 5. How far would you go for the truth if each new clue pulls you further from your family and yourself? Kira spent the whole night at the kitchen table scrolling through missing persons forums, orphanage, alumni groups, volunteer detective blogs. The world seemed full of other people's lives, any one of which could turn out to be your own kin. The coffee ran out. Her head throbbed. By morning, she tied her hair back, put on her coat, and went to Olga's, not for comfort for an interrogation. Aunt Olga greeted her with her usual overbearing affection. Kira, you've lost weight, haven't you? Are you starving yourself again? I need to talk. Kira cut her off sharply. About Anton. Aunt Olga's face hardened instantly, as if she put on a mask. Don't. It's too late. I know. Why didn't anyone tell me? Aunt Olga nervously fiddled with her hair. We all kept quiet for your mother. She begged us. And your father, he was on the edge. After Anton disappeared, the house turned cold. We hoped you would at least bring them some light. Where is he? Did any of you even look, or did you just erase him from memory? I couldn't. I was scared that if I found him, he'd hate us. And if not? Could I really accept a grandson who'd become a ghost to everyone? Kira looked at Aunt Olga and for the first time saw not just an old aunt, but a woman who'd been paralyzed by fear. Give me something, an old photo, a letter, a phone number. Aunt Olga sighed heavily, rummaged in her closet, and handed Kira a battered box. Just don't call from here. And don't tell anyone you saw this. Inside were some children's drawings, an old letter with a return address for an orphanage across town, and a scrap of paper with a phone number. Kira could hardly believe her luck or her own recklessness. At home, her father met her with a scowl. Where have you been? At Olga's. I know where to look. He slowly slumped onto the couch. If you find him? What will you say? I'll tell him the truth. About Mom, about our silence, about the fear. He nodded, but a shadow crossed his eyes as if he was praying nothing would come of it. Kira locked herself in her room, clutching the number. She dialed, ringing, no answer. But she couldn't stop. That evening, she got a text. Stop searching. Leave the dead in peace if you value your life. She froze, hands trembling. Someone clearly did not want her digging up the truth. The next morning, Kira went to the return address from the letter. The neighborhood was foreign. Shabby apartment blocks, an empty playground, wind blowing trash in circles. She climbed, too. The third floor knocked for a long time. A tired-looking woman answered. Excuse me, I'm looking for Anton. The woman looked surprised, then lowered her eyes. There's no one here by that name. I have a letter, Kira handed over. The envelope. Please, I really need to know. The woman hesitated but let her in the tiny kitchen. Among the smell of boiled pasta and old books, she said, There was a boy, Anton. They took him away. No one knows where. He was different, always drawing, never spoke to the other kids. Where did they take him? I can't say. They said it was for the best. Kira stepped outside as if falling through time. The world seemed bigger and colder. Now her brother was an even more elusive ghost, but on the mailboxes she saw a sticker, Anton. Courier services? Coincidence? Or a sign, one step in the secret may become deadly. Is Kara ready to learn what was forbidden her whole life? Chapter 6. What's left when all illusions are gone? Can you start over if truth is your only foundation? Kira stood at the entrance, clutching an old photograph and a number scribbled in shaky handwriting. Rain was pouring down her collar, chilling her skin as if everything around her was urging her toward one final step. The sticker with the name Anton nagged at her. She took a photo, called the courier service. Hello, may I speak to Anton? He's out on a job. Leave a message. Came the terse reply. Kira almost broke down right there on the street. So close and yet nothing changes, she thought. But then came the resolve that grows in people tormented by other secrets. She sent a voice message. Anton, this is your sister. I know you exist. Please, let me meet you. The reply came late that night. Meet me tomorrow, the park by the monument, 11 a.m., alone. That night was the longest of Kira's life. She barely slept, imagining every possible scenario. Was he angry, cold, broken, or not even him? Maybe it was a trap? But fears faded before the main thing. She would finally have the right to speak the truth out loud. At the appointed hour, Kira went to the park. The bench by the monument was slick with dew, and standing nearby was a tall man with a thin face and eyes like her own. She recognized herself in his features as you recognize your reflection in a fogged mirror. Are you Anton? Yes, he said quietly, clutching that same old envelope. A heavy silence fell. Even the birds seemed to hold their breath. Why didn't you look for us? Kira asked almost in a whisper. I did. But they always turn me away. Your father. He didn't want me around. And your mother, she wrote, but then stopped. Kira listened, disbelieving. Why? They said I was in the way of your new life. First in the orphanage, then at odd jobs as I grew up. All I had were drawings and these letters. He handed her a small stack of letters, each one smelling of lost years. Kira trembled from anger, pain, the impossibility of fixing everything. I'm sorry. She breathed, knowing apologies couldn't touch lost time. You're not to blame, Anton replied calmly. No one is. Everyone was afraid. They sat together in silence like children who had lost their map home. I want you to meet Dad. Kira said finally, no, it's better for him this way. Kira nodded. Suddenly, she understood. You can't erase the past, but you don't have to be its prisoner. You can choose to tell the truth, to build a relationship from scratch, or to remain alone with someone else's mistakes. That evening, she returned home. Her father waited in the kitchen, quietly crumbling bread into soup. Did you find him? He asked, not looking up. Yes, and I met with him. For the first time in a long while, he looked her in the eyes. There was pain, relief, and fear. There, forgive me, Kira, I thought I was protecting you. We lost each other anyway, Dad, but now I have a brother. And you know, I don't want to hide anything from anyone anymore. They sat together, saying nothing, but for the first time in years truly together. What's left when all illusions are gone? Only what you build yourself. Even if you have to start from scratch. Time passed. Kira and Anton didn't become perfect siblings, too many wounds, too many lost years. But now there were no more secrets. And the family album had a new place, out in the open. For those who are no longer afraid of the truth, one discovery changed everything. But maybe this is the real beginning when you no longer have anyone else's secrets to keep.